Guys, today is going to be a super one. It's going to be a super one because it's also quite an embarrassing story. You know, I grew up under the wings of people that grew up Kokasi, and Kokasi, we think that we are smart asses, and when you think of things such as scams and the like, you don't think you'll ever get caught, you know. The only thing that you know at that point in time is that people get scammed in Johannesburg. You know, that's our time back in the day, right? So that's where one would be sure not to take a risk here and there because there are tons of scams that had happened. But now there's this particular day, and this story so far is known by my wife and I think my friend 𝐿𝐿𝐤𝐜. I don't think I've ever shared it with anyone else beyond now the audience. So majority of you, it will be the first time hearing my personal story about how I got scammed out of 10,000 Rand in my new S4 at the time. And I mean, it was pish posh. I think I had bought it less than a month. I had it for less than a month, and then it went by means of the scam. So here's how the story goes, right? So it's a day like none other. It's 2013. I woke up energized, full of energy, and ready to take on that day, right? Now the funny thing is that when as an EHP, right, you have an area that you oversee where you do your inspections. So I was looking tip top, professional, ready to take on my work. So I went to work. I even left the office earlier than usual that day because usually we leave at around 10 a.m. to go to inspections. I think I left at around 9:30. So that was my first detriment. You know, I went out with the energy of fulfilling what my job description requires and my scope, but then that decision, had I not taken it that day, that experience wouldn't have panned out the way it panned out for that specific day. But at the same time, this video wouldn't exist if I didn't leave the office early that particular day. So here's how the story goes. I go out into my area. It's not far from the office. I was based basically centrally around our office building, and that was my area. So I go out. I start doing a couple of inspections. I remember I went to a salon. I remember I went to a small tuck shop. I went to a small supermarket, and they're all right next to each other, right? So that's the interesting story there. And then as I'm approaching my car, there's this guy. I will never forget this name. It's 2021 now, but that name, Armando. Hey, I'll never forget that name, guys. So this guy approaches me. As he approaches me, he's like, hey, my guy, I don't understand English, you know, and there's this guy that I need to call because I have some stuff for him. And basically he didn't even say that. He said there's this guy that I need to speak to, but unfortunately I don't understand English, so can you help me? Then I'm like, do you have airtime, my guy? Then he's like, yeah. So that was my first mistake. No boundaries. I was very trusting. Well, it's all good and well, it happened. Then I call the person on the phone, right? I say, so what's your name? He's like, my name is Armando. I'm like, Armando. All right, bra, Armando. So what do you need me to do? He's like, no, just tell him that I basically need to talk to him. And then as the conversation goes, I will guide you in terms of what to say. I'm like, okay, cool. I can do that, easy peasy. So the guy on the phone, he answered. He was, what can I say? He was, I don't want to put a religious affiliation to it, but that's what comes to mind right now. He was Arabian, rather. I was about to say Muslim. He was Arabian sounding, you know, on the phone. So he picks up the phone. He's like, hello. I'm like, hi, my name is 𝐿𝐿𝐤𝐜. I'm here with a guy called Armando, and this guy says I should call you and you are expecting his call. He's like, oh yeah, Armando, I know that guy. I'm like, okay, cool. Armando, he says he knows you, so ufunan babu, ufunan. Then he's like, I'm jeluting petelis as staff, you know. Then I'm like, he says he's got the stuff. He's speaking in codes, right? He says he's got the stuff, right? I'm like, okay, cool. Armando says he's got your stuff. Then I'm like, so Lomtagalo, will he know exactly what you are talking about? He's like, yeah. So the guy on the phone is like, what? He's got the platinum? I'm like, platinum? And I'm like, platinum? He's like, yeah, platinum. I'm like, okay, cool. He says, yeah, he's got the platinum. Then he's like, okay. tell him to hurry, don't get another buyer, I want that stuff. And then Armando is like, uthi malini, utuzonginikeza malini, you know. And I'm like, okay, so he's asking how much you're gonna give him, and he's like, no, I'll give him 900,000. And that blew me away. Bear in mind, it's 2013. I'm 25 years old. Yeah, I'm 25 years old. It's 2013. Hey, I've never heard of such an amount being spoken in my ear before. So when I heard 900,000, you know, I was blown away. So I'm like, hey, Armando, this guy says 900,000, bro, for that platinum. Then Armando's like, yeah, tell him we need to nyeza, you know, mele ngize manje ngizomnikeza yona yena ayenza imali ukuthi ibe ready. I'm like, okay, Armando says that just prepare the money and then he'll come to you. Whereabouts are you? Then he states where he was. I think he stated like Kempton Park. I'm not sure. Bear in mind, I'm in Germiston at this point, so I think he stated like Kempton Park. Okay, cool. Then Armando is like, okay, I need transport to go fetch this thing. I don't remember how exactly I got convinced to let Armando in the car, right? And before I knew it, I was all excited and I felt a part of this deal where there's 900,000 at stake. And the more we get to talking, like he's telling me that he stays go hostela, he's out of severe poverty, he works at the mine, and that's how he got the platinum out, you know, and he was suffering. So now this is his opportunity. Even the guys that he lives with, some of them now are living it big because of what they managed to do. The mine is in Springs. So he feeds me the story and I'm swallowing it up as I'm driving, dude. He even looks at my phone. He's like, yo, iPhone yakho yinhle. I'm like, yeah, siyazama. Kodwa manje yabona with 900k, my brother, and so he splits some money. Phela manje petroleum, it's not for nothing, you know. I'm like, I can't be taking you to Springs to go fetch this thing. I spoke to the guy over the phone. What's my cut in this thing? And the guy's like 50%. I'm like, what? 50%? I'm like, let's do it, bro. So we drive from Germiston to Springs. Along the way, he's feeding me all these stories, and my God, I'm swallowing. But my appetite is open to everything that he's telling me, right? So, we even passed the toll gate. I'm happy to swipe the toll gate. I mean, what do I have to lose, my guy? 450k is coming my way. And you know what the biggest mistake is in this situation, eh? When you hear that type of amount, you already know. I remember I had a property, a 2-bedroom flat. I had Ford Focus that wasn't paid off at the time, so now it's paid off. But at the time, it was far from paid off, right? And I was getting married the exact same year, wifey. So all those things are playing. So while you're having the conversation, you are cooking up your own success story in your mind. Or at the end of the day, I'll have 450k. You don't even have the time to analyze and think, where will I put this 50k? Will these guys not rob me? Hey, I don't even know this guy and he's in my car. What type of story is he feeding me? Man, should I call wifey to be and get her opinion on? There's none of that. Instead, you are daydreaming. And I remember picturing, or when I get home, I'll have the money like on the bed. I'll be like, baby, we are rich. This property will be paid off in no time and we'll be doing well. And the car, you know, you don't need to worry about all those things. And I was hella excited. I was painting everything that I'm gonna do with that money. And at that time, 450k, like a hell of a lot of money. And I think the other trick that they played me on is that this Armando character, hey, that boy can act, because even the way he was dressed, it just gelled well with saying that he lives hostela, is under severe poverty. He was thin and scrawly, you know. There was nothing much to him, so I believed him, bro. Then we got to Springs. So there are a number of red flags that I could have picked up upon, such as the questions I spoke about, but I didn't, right? So now we are at Springs. Then he says, let's start at Springs taxi rank, right? I don't remember the story he fed me for us going to Springs taxi rank, but I think he said that he needs to speak to his uncle to organize that thing, you know. And then we go to the taxi rank, then he leaves me in the car. So I'm parked, it's busy, Springs taxi rank is busy. Unali men left, right and center. So from a safety perspective, I'm not even worried. I mean, we are in a public place, you know, this kid is, I can take him on if he tries to do anything, but even that is not in my mind, or I can take this guy on. Because in my mind, I've just formed a partnership, a brotherhood with someone I don't even know. My goodness, someone I don't even know, right? So okay, it's all good and well. I stay in the car. 5 minutes waiting turns to 10 minutes. 10 minutes turns to 15 minutes. Hey man, it's 45 minutes. I had taken this guy's number, right? So I have the number of the guy that says he's gonna buy this product. I also have the number of this guy, this Armando guy, right? So I start calling him, hey my guy, what's happening? You know, are you trying to screw me over, or did you just use me so that I could transport you here, you know? And he's like, no, I'm coming, you know. Then 15 to 20 minutes later, he actually comes. He's running to the car, you know. I'm like, Sikai, stop, Baba. Where's this platinum that you guys are talking about? He's like, no, you know, the full story is that the platinum is left by security at the mine. So I'm working, it's an inside job, I'm working with security. So now there's another party that originally I knew nothing about, right? So in my mind already should be clicking or 450K that he says it's 50-50. It's now 33.3%. It's no longer 50-50, right? But it's all good. That doesn't resonate with me at the time. So I'm like, okay, so where's the security? I need to go back to work. Let's push this thing. Let's settle this thing and we'll be good for the day, you know? Then it's like, yeah, so now we need to move closer to this mine. So here's another thing. They'll get you by trying. So after they've tried to get some rapport, they get you to the point where you believe their story by taking you to where they say they work, right? So they take me by, there's a park, a nearby park that's near the mine. Now here's the tricky part that I don't get how I was so gullible, right? The tricky part is that as we are approaching the park, so he's showing me, he's like, there's the mine right there where I work. But because of what I did, I don't want to be too close or else they'll associate me, you know, as they are suspecting things, you know? So I'm like, that makes sense. So what he does then is that we start driving towards the park. Now as we are driving towards the park, he's like, hey Baba, don't look too much left and right because there are cameras everywhere here, because the mine, you know, it doesn't trust anyone. Now guys, at this point I have a BTech degree in environmental health, as I've already said. I've lived my share of life, and how that even I got tricked into believing there are cameras near the park that are watching and they belong to the mine. I don't know how that happened, right? So we parked the vehicle at the park. Then it's like, okay, there's a guy that works with the security guard is gonna come, right? So I'm like, okay, cool, let's wait for the guy. We wait for the guy. 30 minutes goes. I'm like, hey my guy, what's the story here? He's like, no, relax, they are coming. The guy said he's coming, right? Then we're using my phone. Bear in mind, we're using my phone this entire time to call this guy, to just all communications. You know, this guy has shown me that he's from dire poverty. He doesn't even have airtime at this point in time. He says that his last airtime was the airtime we used to call that other guy, you know? So I'm like, okay, cool. We call all these guys, then we wait at the park. I even swing. I remember vividly at the park, you know, waiting patiently. And Liana, he's still feeding me stories like, so what are you gonna do with your cash, bro? I'm like, for now I don't know, you know, I don't wanna tell him exactly all the things that I'm going to do. So I'm like, for now I don't know exactly what it is I'm going to do with this cash, but yeah, it is what it is, right? Then this guy comes. As he comes, he comes straight to us. He's like, whoever, this guy's name, I don't remember. But Armando, wherever you are, my guy, I remember you. I don't remember this guy. Then he introduces himself, I introduce myself. Then he takes it out of his pocket, right? He's like, nah, you played nah. You know? It's like, maybe this size. You know, maybe this size. It's like, nah, you played nah. I'm like, oh, okay. He's like, manje i-problem i-one, yabo. These security guards, bati bafuna imali up front. They want money up front, right? I'm like, money up front for what? They like to release this thing. I'm like, nah, no ways. Let's speak to this guy, right? Then again, gullible of me. Let's speak to this guy, really? So we call this guy. This one I do remember his name. Wena Babaso, Mr. Babaso. I do remember your name. I do remember your name. So this Mr. Babaso character claims to be a security guard that works for the mine there in Springs. Then I speak to him. He's highlighting, or yeah, we won't be able to release the stuff without some form of upfront payment. As security, we've suffered long enough. Guys have opened garages, guys have bought sports cars, guys have been living it up, but they had promised us a cut. But once you give them this particular mineral, this platinum, then they disappear. I'm like, okay, it also makes sense, you know, he's defending his own. Now, I want you to bear in mind that at the time, my mother had transferred 20,000 into my account, right? And that 20,000 was to pay people. I don't remember how I think they were gonna install a gate or something at home, right? So she wanted me to make that payment on her behalf. Okay, cool. In my mind now, my mind is starting to play games with me because this 20,000 isn't mine, you know? So I'm negotiating with the guys. They say they want 75,000 up front. I'm like, hi, you are crazy. Then you won't get it because I'm not that guy. I don't have that type of money, right? Then they're like, then how much do you have? I'm like, I have 5,000, you know? They're like, nah, they don't cut it, my guy. 5,000, they don't cut it, you know? Then I'm like, but ngapanta any 5,000, you know? Another thing is that these guys trick you into owning the story. If you remember when it started, the guy whose story this belongs to is Armando. He's the one who supposedly had the mineral. Now suddenly he doesn't. Now it's security, Mr. Mabaso, that has this platinum, and this guy that he sent just to show as evidence of it. You know? Now I'm oblivious. I don't even know what platinum looks like at the time. You know, the only time I hear about platinum is when, you know, the news go up and they tell you platinum is trading at so much, gold is trading at so much. So gullible of me, I don't even know what it looks like. So I actually just trust that this thing is platinum, and I'm willing to fork out money that isn't even mine for that, because in my mind I'm like, if I'm gonna get 450k, or in this case now, since it's diluted, but in my mind it was still 450k, in this case I'd get 300k, right? So I'm like, I can try 10k, you know, 𝐌𝐿𝐷𝐿, you know. Now the park is also busy, it's not quiet. So me and this Armando character, we are deliberating around this thing. I'm like, hey, I mean, I don't really have this money. Now I'm trying to play my own footing in some way, somehow. But somehow he convinces me, right? Then what do? I'm like, okay, where's the nearest F&B? Then F&B, where we come from, like, that's a bit far. Is there another ATM? So another thing, at this point, because it's easy money, you are willing to even get charged by other banks to use their ATM. I mean, what the hell? I'll get a lot of money out of this, right? So I go to that ATM. He's right here with me, right? He's right here with me. Then as I'm inserting my card, he's right. I'm like, hey, my guy, move away, dude. He moves away. I take out the money. Now I realize that he wasn't even bothered, you know. So I first had to transfer the money from the savings pocket, because when my mother deposited it, immediately I transferred it to my savings pocket so that I know it's not my money. But in this case, suddenly I don't know that it's not my money. So I bring the money back into the active account, I take out 10 grand. I even had to increase my limit because I've never even withdrawn 10,000 grand at that point in time, right? Not from a physical ATM, right? So I take out the money. Hey, my guys, there was another couple like go parking it up. The more I think about it, I even think that maybe they were in on it. But anyway, they were there. So noli bizinyana go parking it. Then I have this cash right in hand. My heart is beating. I'm like, am I really gonna do this? But at the same time, I'm like, oh, small price to pay for the big reward that I'm going to get, right? So we go to the car. He's like, no, don't give me the money here, dude, you know? He's like, so let's go to the car. That's another thing that I don't understand, how I didn't pick it up. Why did I end up giving Armando the money and not call for these guys to come and collect the money so that it's a trade-off right there and then? You know, I didn't even think about that. So we go to the car, we are seated in the car. Then I'm like, okay, so here's the cash. How is this going to work? He's like, no, I'm gonna take the cash to these guys, then I'm gonna come back with this platinum. I'm like, all right, cool. Then here's another confusing part. I don't know how they managed to convince me to give them my phone. You know, I literally, he was like, yeah, ne phone, bloody, because I literally do not remember how it came to be that I gave this guy my phone. But I gave him my phone. Oh, new, might I add. It's still painful to know what I gave, that I paid for that contract for like 11 more, for like 23 more months, and the phone wasn't even with me anymore. So in other words, I was scammed rather more than that 10,000 and the phone, because I was paying for the phone. So in other words, I was scammed in excess of close to 30,000. Come to think of it, man, I was scammed in excess of close to 30,000 because my contract amount was 1,200 every month and it was uncapped airtime. I remember. Yo, dude, okay, cool. Painful, but okay, cool. It happened. Oh my goodness. All right, cool. So I give him the phone and the money, then he leaves, right? How 5 minutes goes, 10 minutes goes, 15 minutes goes, this guy's not showing up. Then I leave the car. Now I'm walking towards like that side of the intersection. I'm trying to see, I'm not seeing this guy anyway. Then I bump into two ladies just passing by. Then I'm like, how far is that mine, you know? Then they're like, it's about 20 minutes walk. So I'm like, okay, Ghana, it's because of the cameras that I actually gave him the money here. And I basically then follow, let him go away with it. And then, so in other words, if I calculate, it means I still have to wait 20 to 30 more minutes. Stupid me, I still wait, guys. Oh, the stage is embarrassing to even say, man. But I don't know, they get deep into your core and you start believing even the unbelievable. So I was believing this thing, right? So now 40 minutes lapses. Now I'm walking, go parking. I'm like, yo, these guys got to, where are they? In my mind, I'm still believing the story. That's the messed up part, you know? Then there's a guy and a lady, the one that I think was in on it, because the guy randomly asked me, hey, my guy, did they just scam you or something? You're just walking like a headless chicken. I'm like, no, scam, what are you talking about? That's the ego talking at that point in time. I'm like, scam, you pussy boy, what are you talking about, dude? So, but what that guy did essentially was plant the thought that I was scammed. For the first time that entire day, that's when the thought came, or actually I was scammed, you know? Bear in mind, guys, again, I'm not just a graduate. I graduated with distinctions, all distinctions. I'm a cum laude. So that smart ass ego that was talking, it's based on such things. Yo. So what I do immediately, I start the car, I start driving around now, trying to see if I can't catch them. But my guy, it's already close to an hour since they've gone. Then I drive to the mine. You know, I get to the mine, I ask them, where's this department of platinum, this and this and this. They direct me, I go straight into their offices. I'm like, at that point in time, I didn't still believe 100%. I still needed that confirmation or I was truly scammed, right? So I asked for the manager there, this Mr. Mabaso, in fact. I asked for this Mr. Mabaso, and they like, Mr. Mabaso does not work here. Then I tell them a bit about the situation. Then they sent me to the risk management. Yeah, Nana. What? Are you done swimming already?
Yes.
Okay, go get warm, Nana. I'll be done now.
Okay.
Okay, back to the story. So I asked this guy. They send me to the risk management and security unit. I get there, then immediately I'm like, I'm looking for Mr. Mabas. So he confirms that this guy doesn't work here at all. Then I'm like, it was painful, guys. I remember just getting an immediate headache, you know. Hey, yo, guys. So this guy, I narrate the entire story. Then he's like, oh, you are not the first to be scammed with the same story. You are not the last. And if I can console you, you are lucky you just lost 10,000 in a phone. There are guys who lost over 100,000 for this thing. So in other words, as much as I'm mentioning how smart I think I am, there are guys who are even smarter, who have achieved more in life, who are older, in fact, because he even told me there's a guy whom they picked up at an Audi dealership. He was going there to buy a car, you know, and he ended up not buying the car. Instead, the deposit that he was gonna pay of 100K, he ended up giving to these guys for this particular thing. So don't think, or if you have been scammed, you are the fool, you know, as embarrassing as it may be and as embarrassing as it is. Don't think that you are the fool, right? So it's fine. They explain all of that to me, and it was quite painful because of all the elements. One, it's not my money. Two, it's a new phone that I'm still gonna have to pay for because it's not even insured. Three, no one knows, including my wife to be at that point in time. Four, my ego is crushed. And five, I need to drive back, not to Germiston, because there's no way in hell I'm going back to work feeling the way I'm feeling. So I need to drive home, and I don't even know the directions from Springs. I wasn't that familiar with Springs, right? So now as I'm trying to drive back home, everything is marinating, but I start laughing at myself and how stupid and gullible I could have been, and how the day could have been on a very different trajectory to the way it went. So I get home. Bear in mind, I have no phone, so I have to wait for wifey to get home at that point in time. Then I didn't waste time. As embarrassing as it was, I sat her down. I laughed my head off before I was able to even utter a word. Then I narrated the entire story. And for her, she was rather shocked. More than anything, she was shocked. You know, firstly, because we're the type of couple that communicates everything. But I didn't communicate everything. I went all the way to Springs from Germiston and didn't communicate anything. The last time I had spoken to her was in the morning when I got to work, you know, just to wish her a great day. I got to work safely and so on. So for her, it just didn't make sense at all. But also, you know, I just basically messed with our finances, right? And I needed her to assist me with a plan now, because the next day I need to pay for my old lady's things. Mama, I'm sorry. I know it's the first time you're hearing about this. Luckily, I did go for a loan. That's when I actually learned about a revolving loan. So luckily, your things got sorted through that loan. But the revolving loan, so in other words, I was scammed more because you know how the revolving loan works, right? It catches you with no money. You use up the money for this particular emergency or situation, but you still need to pay it back. But you can take money again and they charge interest like a credit card, how it works. So I was scammed more than the initial figures that I spoke about, right? But that's my story. And based on that story, I just finally had the guts to share it. I know, please don't judge me. I was young, I was gullible. I believed in get rich schemes, clearly. You know, before my encounter with Armando. Before my encounter with Armando, getting rich quick was never even in my mind and on any level, you know. But anyway, it happens, bruh. It happens. The important thing to note is that these guys never give up. I remember in 2019, this time I was in Johannesburg. Then there's another guy who approached, this time with the guts to knock on the window of my vehicle, right? And then when he knocked, I opened the window. Then he's like, I don't understand English. So I'm like, so? Then he's like, no, yo, I got so emotional. I'm like, yabona nino Armando. Yabona nino. I'm like, yabona nino Armando. Yabona nina. Phinde niscam abantu ngizongizwa kahle. Imagine me telling a pure stranger, letting out my frustration because he brought out those memories of the past, you know. In fact, he tried to feed me the story before I lashed out at him because I obviously wanted to ascertain that it is truly a scam. So these guys will never stop. They'll just find more smart, innovative ways to actually target people, target us, and make us victims. And they are happy to make you part with your money. So just be aware. I just felt that I should mention that. Just be aware. Cheers. So the lesson here is, get rich quick schemes do not work. Get rich quick money do not work. Scammers exist and you need to be vigilant and aware. And you need to basically wake up to the fact that you could be a victim no matter how smart you actually think you are. Number 4, there are countless scams out there. In fact, the next video on this particular topic will be a video with my good friend Kat. Kat is gonna narrate his story, how he was scammed when we were back in tertiary. Imagine scamming a person back in tertiary, my guy. But I laughed at him, you know, after I supported him, but he was a bit of a joke for a while. You know, it was sad, but it was also very funny. Until one day, I'll be that particular victim. And that's why it was only my wife and him who knew the story up till this point. So if you learn anything, because my wife also mentioned as the years went by, particularly in that these people also do use some form of muti, you know, to drag you in a way where your senses don't work properly. And that's why I can't make sense of some of the things that I was doing on that day, like giving them my phone, not questioning anything, letting a stranger into my car, because it could have been worse, eh? They could have taken the car, they could have left me stranded or dead. They could have basically taken my phone to use for, what's this? They could have taken my phone to use for, you know, to take more money out of the bank account. So they could have ended up taking the whole 20,000 that didn't belong to me. Luckily on the other side I was broke totally, you know, but things could have been worse. So if you do find yourself in the middle of a scam, be okay with the fact that you were scammed, learn from it, and then, like I'm doing now, share as much as you can about it. I remember even listening to a radio show and the topic was about scams, and there were countless of them. So I will make a video of the top 10 scams in South Africa that I've heard or know about. Luckily, that's the only scam that I know where I have been scammed. But you know, the next one will be 𝐌𝐿𝐤𝐜 𝐔𝐬𝐞𝐝. And then the third one in this segment or series will then be about the top 10 scams to look out for, particularly in South Africa. You know them from the emails to, you know, posters to jobs to, you know them, guys, you know them. But I'll just put a bigger light on them, especially through more research on that particular topic. I hope you're able to gain something from that. And then without further ado, guys, please subscribe to the channel. I tell the truth. I'm honest as much as possible. I teach, I mentor, I do public speaking. I do videos basically that are there to enhance. Hey baby girl.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I do videos basically.
Oh yeah.
Okay, erikipete video phela. Erikipete video.
What do you copy the subscribe?
Erikipete. Okay, go ahead. Tell them to subscribe.
It's
subscribe.
Subscribe to this
Yes.
video. My dad is still talking. Mwah.
Love you. Tell them you love them.
Love you. Mwah, mwah, mwah.
Cheers, guys. See you on the next one. And there's a lesson to be learned here, so it starts with you. Cheers, cheers, cheers.